All right, so let's go. All right, so this question says here that the diagram below shows two lines, line one and line two. The equation of line one is x plus 2y equal 10. The line two passes through the point 0, -5, 0, -5, and is perpendicular to line one. So there it is. We're getting some information out. So what we want to do now is just to see what the questions are really about, right? Let's see what the those questions are about. So let's go. First question says express the equation of the line 1, L1, in the form y equal to mx plus c. So let's see how we got it. We got line 1 in the form x plus 2y equal 10. X plus 2y equal 10. So we're looking at x plus 2y equal 10. So that's how we got it. We got it x plus 2y equal 10. But how they want it to be written though, all right, they want it to be written in the form y equal to mx plus c. Therefore, we're going to transpose and then just make y the subject. So basically, we want to subtract the x from both sides, right? So I'm looking at 2y is now equal to, I'm going to put the x out front, so -x plus 10. But we're not done here. We're not done. What we're going to do is to divide by 2, divide everything by 2. So technically speaking, what we're looking at here is that y is equal to, this is actually a -half when you look at this. So negative x over 2 is -half x, all right, plus 5. So we're looking at y is equal to -half x plus 5. And so right there, we wrote it in the form y equal to mx plus b. State the gradient of line 1. In stating the gradient of line 1, we want to acknowledge the fact that this here that we have, a half, is actually the gradient. So the gradient in the form, when we're talking about y is equal to mx plus c, m refers to the gradient. So it is the coefficient of x, and then this is equal to -1/2, right? So the gradient of line 1 is actually -1/2. Hence, determine the equation of line 2. Now, what we're saying is, we can determine the equation of line 2. So if I know the gradient of line 2, right? So line 2, the gradient for line 2 is going to be the negative reciprocal of the gradient of line 1. So line 1 gradient is -1/2, all right? Therefore, for line 2, it's going to be positive 2/1, which is just 2. Because remember that when two lines are perpendicular, their gradient is a negative reciprocal of the other one. So being the fact that this one is actually -1/2, then a perpendicular line to it, which is line 2, as we were given information up here, when we checked the instructions here from the beginning, we were told that line 2 is perpendicular to line 1. So that now would give us a very, very, very good opportunity to find the gradient of line 2. So there it is 2. Now, if I know the gradient of line 2, all I need to know now is a point that line 2 passes through. So we could observe the diagram here. So here is line 2, right? So we have our line 2 and it passes here. Now, the y-intercept, as you could see, is -5, which means that if I have my y-intercept and a gradient, I can write the equation of the line right about now, right? So then the equation of this line, the equation of the line, line 2 is equal to y is equal to 2x minus 5. All right. So we're going to do that on the basis of where it crosses the y-axis. That's the y-intercept. So I could just mark that for us, which is the -5 here. And then the gradient is 2. So basically, we're good for that. And let's see what the other question is. The other question says, given that f of x is equal to 1/3 x plus 4 and g of x is equal to 3x all over x plus 1, determine the value of f of 9. All right, so we want to determine the value of f of 9. So if we're going to determine the value of f of 9, we definitely need to have that f function. So the f function reads that f of x is equal to 1/3 x plus 4. So I'm going to do f of 9. And this means then that 9 will be substituted where the x is, correct? And then I carry out my calculation. So you could see that this is the x, and now I'm plugging in the 9 where the x is. So finally, we're looking at x into 20 itself 1 times and 3 into the 9 3 times. So we're looking at 3 plus 4, and that is going to give us 7. All right. So f of 9 is actually 7. All right. So having had that f of 9 equals 7, right? Having had that f of 9 equals 7, let's see what else they have. Now, the next question says, calculate the value of f of g of -3. All right. Let me write the f function here. So it is 1/3 x plus 4. And let me write the g function there. It is 3x over x plus 1. All right, so we want to have these functions up and ready in order to deal with this thing. So here is the deal. Here is the deal. All right. F of g of -3. What we need to do is that we're going to be working it backwards. So we need to find g of -3. And then that value, we're going to plug it into the f function, right? So we want to find g of -3 and plug it into the f function. So right now, let's find g of -3 right here. So g of -3, is simply equal to 3 times -3 over -3 plus 1. 3 times -3 will give us -9. -3 plus 1 is going to give us -2. So we're actually looking at 9 over 2, or for some, we'll say 4.5. So there it is that we have found g of -3 to be 9 over 2, or 3.5. So then what we want to do now, though, is that we would love to insert that -3. We want to insert that value that we have for g of -3 into f. So basically, the f function says f of x is equal to 1/3 x plus 4. All right. Remember, though, that we're trying to find f of g of -3, where we found out just now that g of -3, I could just mark this off, that it is equal to 9 over 2. So then I am just finding f of 9 over 2. So let's go for f of 9 over 2 now. So this is 1/3 x, which is basically times 9 over 2 plus 4. So you could see here that I will have 1/3 times x, but so I'm going to substitute the 9 over 2 wherever the x is, and that is that. So what are we looking at here? We're actually looking at 9 over 6, and then we add 4 to that, right? So 9 over 6 can be canceled down quickly as actually 1.5. So 9 over 6 is 1.5, and 1.5 plus 4 will give you 5.5. So there it is that we end up with 5.5. Therefore, we can conclude that f of g of -3 is equal to 5.5, right? So there it is. We have found f of g of -3 and 5.5. I just leave it there. Now, the next question says, determine the value of x for which g of x is equal to 5/2. So what we want to do, though, is to make sure that we have our g of f function. So let me write my g of x function first, all right? So there it is. Let's make sure we look at it. So we're talking about 3x over x plus 1. So that's the g of x. So let's write g of x function right here. So g of x is equal to 3x over x plus 1. So this is saying determine the value of x, all right, for which g of x will give us this. In other words, then, we want to equate this to 5/2, right? So in equating this to 5/2, we're going to solve for x. So let us go about our business. So we have 3x over x plus 1, which is equal to 5/2. So it's depending on how you wanna work this out. So we're gonna multiply throughout. Let's multiply throughout by let's get rid of the fraction. So in getting rid of the fraction, I'm going to multiply everything by 2, and then I'm going to have x plus 1, and this is going to multiply by 2, and then I have x plus 1. So I'm multiplying throughout by my two denominators here, as a product, so that I could cancel. So right about now, the x plus 1 cancel itself, and the 2 cancel itself. So what we have here is 2 times 3x, which is 6x, and this is equal to 5 times x plus 1. But we could just distribute in the meantime, because 5 times x will give us 5x, and 5 times 1 will give us 5. So now we want to continue our solving. We will subtract 5x from both sides. Therefore, x is equal to 5, right? So I'm getting here that x is equal to 5. So what this is saying, where x is equal to 5. So if I should substitute 5 here and here, we will get 5/2 as the answer. That's what that is saying. All right, let's continue working. All right.